The Disappearance. Washington, D.C. was a city of power and ambition, where dreams were made and broken in the hallowed halls of politics. For Chandra Levy, a bright and determined 24-year-old, the city was a beacon of opportunity. She had come to D.C. from Modesto, California, full of hope and aspirations for a career in public service. An intern with the Federal Bureau of Prisons, Chandra was on the cusp of completing her graduate studies in public administration at the University of Southern California. On the morning of May 1, 2001, the sun shone brightly over the city, casting a warm glow on the bustling streets. Chandra began her day with a routine workout at her gym, Fitness First, located near DuPont Circle. She was a regular there, known for her disciplined fitness regime. After her workout, she stopped by her favorite cafe for a coffee and a light breakfast. To the barista and the few patrons who exchanged pleasantries with her, Chandra seemed as cheerful and vivacious as ever. By mid-morning, she returned to her apartment on the second floor of the Town's End building, an elegant brick structure in DuPont Circle. Her studio apartment, though modest, reflected her personality, bright, organized, and filled with mementos from her life in California and her time in D.C. She had plans to meet friends later that week, and her calendar was filled with notes and reminders about her upcoming graduation. But as the day progressed, Chandra's usually active online presence went silent. She didn't respond to emails or messages from friends and family, which was unusual for her. Her parents, Susan and Robert Levy, grew concerned when their daily phone call went unanswered. Initially, they chalked it up to her busy schedule, but by evening, their worry turned to alarm. By the next day, with no word from Chandra, her parents contacted the D.C. police. The case was assigned to Detective Bob Woodward, a seasoned investigator known for his diligence and methodical approach. Woodward began by canvassing Chandra's apartment. There were no signs of forced entry or a struggle, but certain details stood out. Her cell phone and keys were missing. Yet her wallet, ID, and credit cards were untouched. Her laptop, left open on her desk, held the first clue: an internet search for Rock Creek Park, a vast urban park known for its lush woods and winding trails. Woodward's initial assessment was perplexing. If Chandra had gone to the park, why had she left her apartment in such an orderly state? Why hadn't she taken her wallet or informed anyone of her plans? The answers seemed elusive, buried within the confines of her digital footprint and the sprawling expanse of Rock Creek Park. As days turned into weeks, the police search extended into the park. Teams of officers, joined by volunteers, scoured the area. They focused on the dense woods and secluded trails, using sniffer dogs and thermal imaging helicopters, but the sheer size of the park made the search akin to finding a needle in a haystack. Each day without a breakthrough weighed heavily on the investigation team and Chandra's family. The Levys flew to D.C. to be closer to the search efforts. They held press conferences, pleading for any information about their daughter. Their heartfelt appeals were covered extensively by the media, turning Chandra's disappearance into a national story. The public was drawn to the mystery and the palpable anguish of a family desperate for answers. Detective Woodward expanded his investigation, interviewing Chandra's friends, colleagues, and acquaintances. He discovered that Chandra had been an exemplary intern, well-liked and respected by those she worked with. Her friends described her as bright, caring, and deeply passionate about her work and her future. But whispers of a secret relationship soon emerged, pointing to a powerful figure, a congressman whose name would add a layer of scandal and complexity to the case. Congressman Gary Condit, a seasoned politician with a reputation for charm and influence, was rumored to have been more than just an acquaintance to Chandra. The nature of their relationship remained murky, but the mere suggestion of his involvement shifted the investigation's focus. Condit's initial responses to inquiries were measured and carefully crafted, but his denial of any inappropriate relationship with Chandra did little to quell the growing suspicions. The media frenzy intensified with the revelation of Condit's possible connection to Chandra. News outlets dissected every detail, and the public's interest soared. The pressure on the police to solve the case grew exponentially, and Woodward knew that any misstep could lead to a media circus and political fallout. Despite the mounting challenges, Woodward remained steadfast. He and his team continued to delve into Chandra's digital life, piecing together her last known activities and searching for any lead that could break the case. They also ramped up their efforts in Rock Creek Park, bringing in experts and additional resources to comb through the vast wooded terrain. As the search and investigation progressed, the mystery of Chandra Levy's disappearance deepened. The initial days of her vanishing were filled with questions and scant answers, leaving a trail of uncertainty that haunted those closest to her. The case had become more than just a search for a missing person. It was a race against time to uncover the truth behind a young woman's sudden disappearance in the heart of the nation's capital. Chapter 2. The investigation begins. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance commenced with an intensity that matched the gravity of the situation. Detective Bob Woodward, a veteran investigator with the Metropolitan Police Department, was assigned to lead the case. Known for his meticulous attention to detail and unrelenting drive, Woodward understood the significance of the case, not just for the Levy family, but for the entire nation watching. Woodward's first step was to assemble a team of skilled detectives and forensic experts. They began by scouring Chandra's apartment for any potential clues. The scene was puzzling. No signs of a struggle, yet crucial items like her cell phone and keys were missing. Woodward's team carefully cataloged everything, from the contents of her refrigerator to the books on her shelves, searching for anything that could provide a lead. Next, the investigation turned to Chandra's digital footprint. Her computer revealed that she had been researching Rock Creek Park shortly before her disappearance. This led Woodward to focus the search efforts on the sprawling urban park, known for its dense woods and secluded trails. The task was daunting. The park covered over 1,700 acres, and its thick foliage provided ample hiding spots. Woodward coordinated with local park rangers and enlisted the help of volunteers. Search teams combed through the park in systematic grids, using trained dogs and thermal imaging equipment. Helicopters hovered overhead, scanning the terrain for any signs of disturbance. Despite the extensive efforts, days turned into weeks with no significant discoveries. Meanwhile, Woodward and his team delved into Chandra's personal life. They interviewed her friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, trying to piece together her final days. Chandra's colleagues at the Federal Bureau of Prisons spoke highly of her, describing her as diligent and ambitious. She had been working on several important projects and was well liked by her peers. Her friends provided more personal insights. They spoke of Chandra's excitement about her upcoming graduation and her plans for the future. However, some friends hinted at a more secretive aspect of her life, a relationship with a powerful man. This lead brought Woodward to Congressman Gary Condit, a respected and influential politician. The rumors about Condit and Chandra were disturbing. Friends mentioned that Chandra had spoken about a powerful friend in Washington, someone she admired deeply. There were also whispers about late-night phone calls and secret meetings. Woodward knew he had to approach this lead with caution. Condit was a prominent figure, and any misstep could result in a media circus. The police approached Condit for an interview. He appeared cooperative, expressing concern for Chandra's well-being. However, his responses were vague, and he denied any intimate relationship with her. Despite his calm demeanor, Woodward sensed there was more to the story. Condit's staff provided alibis and timelines, but inconsistencies began to emerge. The media caught wind of the investigation's focus on Condit, and the story exploded. News outlets dissected every detail of the congressman's life, speculating wildly about his relationship with Chandra. The public's fascination with the case grew, and the pressure on the police to find answers intensified. Amid the media frenzy, the Levy family arrived in Washington, D.C. Their presence added a personal and emotional dimension to the investigation. They held press conferences, pleading for any information about their daughter. Their heartbreak was palpable, and their determination to find Chandra was unwavering. Woodward's team continued to pursue every lead. They re-interviewed Chandra's friends and colleagues, hoping to uncover something they had missed. They also intensified their efforts in Rock Creek Park, bringing in additional resources and experts. The search was exhaustive, but the vastness of the park made progress slow and frustrating. As the investigation dragged on, the team discovered a crucial piece of evidence. A witness came forward, claiming to have seen a young woman matching Chandra's description near a secluded area of Rock Creek Park on the day she disappeared. This sighting provided a glimmer of hope and a new direction for the search. Woodward's team focused their efforts on the area described by the witness. They conducted another intensive search, this time using ground-penetrating radar and more specialized equipment. The process was slow and meticulous, but the team was determined to leave no stone unturned. While the search continued, Woodward also pursued leads related to Condit. He scrutinized the congressman's alibi, looking for any discrepancies. The investigation revealed that Condit had been less than truthful about his whereabouts on the day Chandra disappeared. This discovery raised more questions about his involvement and motives. The tension in the investigation room was palpable. Detectives worked around the clock, chasing down leads and trying to piece together the puzzle. The case was becoming more complex with each passing day, and the mystery of Chandra Levy's disappearance seemed no closer to being solved. As days turned into weeks, Woodward's determination never wavered. He knew that the answers were out there, hidden in the details and the shadows. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance had become a race against time, with the stakes growing higher by the day. The search for truth was relentless, and the pursuit of justice for a young woman whose dreams had been abruptly shattered drove the team forward. The investigation begins. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance commenced with an intensity that matched the gravity of the situation. Detective Bob Woodward, a veteran investigator with the Metropolitan Police Department, was assigned to lead the case. Known for his meticulous attention to detail and unrelenting drive, Woodward understood the significance of the case, not just for the Levy family, but for the entire nation watching. Woodward's first step was to assemble a team of skilled detectives and forensic experts. They began by scouring Chandra's apartment for any potential clues. The scene was puzzling. No signs of a struggle, yet crucial items like her cell phone and keys were missing. Woodward's team carefully cataloged everything, from the contents of her refrigerator to the books on her shelves, searching for anything that could provide a lead. Next, the investigation turned to Chandra's digital footprint. Her computer revealed that she had been researching Rock Creek Park shortly before her disappearance. This led Woodward to focus the search efforts on the sprawling urban park, known for its dense woods and secluded trails. The task was daunting. The park covered over 1,700 acres, and its thick foliage provided ample hiding spots. Woodward coordinated with local park rangers and enlisted the help of volunteers. Search teams combed through the park in systematic grids, using trained dogs and thermal imaging equipment. Helicopters hovered overhead, scanning the terrain for any signs of disturbance. Despite the extensive efforts, days turned into weeks with no significant discoveries. Meanwhile, Woodward and his team delved into Chandra's personal life. They interviewed her friends, colleagues, and acquaintances, trying to piece together her final days. Chandra's colleagues at the Federal Bureau of Prisons spoke highly of her, describing her as diligent and ambitious. She had been working on several important projects and was well liked by her peers. Her friends provided more personal insights. They spoke of Chandra's excitement about her upcoming graduation and her plans for the future. However, some friends hinted at a more secretive aspect of her life, a relationship with a powerful man. This lead brought Woodward to Congressman Gary Condit, a respected and influential politician. The rumors about Condit and Chandra were disturbing. Friends mentioned that Chandra had spoken about a powerful friend in Washington, someone she admired deeply. There were also whispers about late-night phone calls and secret meetings. Woodward knew he had to approach this lead with caution. Condit was a prominent figure, and any misstep could result in a media circus. The police approached Condit for an interview. He appeared cooperative, expressing concern for Chandra's well-being. However, his responses were vague, and he denied any intimate relationship with her. Despite his calm demeanor, Woodward sensed there was more to the story. Condit's staff provided alibis and timelines, but inconsistencies began to emerge. The media caught wind of the investigation's focus on Condit, and the story exploded. News outlets dissected every detail of the congressman's life, speculating wildly about his relationship with Chandra. The public's fascination with the case grew, and the pressure on the police to find answers intensified. Amid the media frenzy, the Levy family arrived in Washington, D.C. Their presence added a personal and emotional dimension to the investigation. They held press conferences, pleading for any information about their daughter. Their heartbreak was palpable, and their determination to find Chandra was unwavering. Woodward's team continued to pursue every lead, They re-interviewed Chandra's friends and colleagues, hoping to uncover something they had missed. They also intensified their efforts in Rock Creek Park, bringing in additional resources and experts. The search was exhaustive, but the vastness of the park made progress slow and frustrating. As the investigation dragged on, the team discovered a crucial piece of evidence. A witness came forward, claiming to have seen a young woman matching Chandra's description near a secluded area of Rock Creek Park on the day she disappeared. This sighting provided a glimmer of hope and a new direction for the search. Woodward's team focused their efforts on the area described by the witness. They conducted another intensive search, this time using ground-penetrating radar and more specialized equipment. The process was slow and meticulous, but the team was determined to leave no stone unturned. While the search continued, Woodward also pursued leads related to Condit. He scrutinized the congressman's alibi, looking for any discrepancies. The investigation revealed that Condit had been less than truthful about his whereabouts on the day Chandra disappeared. This discovery raised more questions about his involvement and motives. The tension in the investigation room was palpable. Detectives worked around the clock, chasing down leads and trying to piece together the puzzle. The case was becoming more complex with each passing day, and the mystery of Chandra Levy's disappearance seemed no closer to being solved. As days turned into weeks, Woodward's determination never wavered. He knew that the answers were out there, hidden in the details and the shadows. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance had become a race against time, with the stakes growing higher by the day. The search for truth was relentless, and the pursuit of justice for a young woman whose dreams had been abruptly shattered drove the team forward. The alleged lover. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance took a dramatic turn with the introduction of Congressman Gary Condit. The media frenzy surrounding Condit and Chandra's possible relationship intensified, casting a shadow over both the investigation and Condit's career. The allegations against him were scandalous, and every detail of his life was suddenly under public scrutiny. Detective Bob Woodward knew that investigating a sitting congressman would be delicate and politically charged. However, the potential connection between Chandra and Condit could not be ignored. Woodward's first step was to gather as much information as possible about their relationship. Condit's public persona was that of a charismatic and influential politician. He represented California's 18th congressional district and had a reputation for being approachable and dedicated to his constituents. However, behind the scenes, rumors swirled about his personal life, particularly his relationships with young women. Woodward's team began by interviewing Chandra's friends and colleagues. Several of them confirmed that Chandra had mentioned a powerful friend in Washington. Although she never explicitly named Condit, her descriptions matched his profile. Friends recalled Chandra's excitement and admiration when talking about this mysterious figure, but they also noted her caution and secrecy regarding their relationship. Further investigation revealed that Condit had visited Chandra's apartment several times. Building security logs and witness statements confirmed these visits, contradicting Condit's earlier statements about the nature of their relationship. Additionally, phone records showed numerous calls between Chandra and Condit, including a lengthy conversation on the day she disappeared. The media quickly picked up on these developments, and Condit's connection to Chandra became headline news. Reporters camped outside Condit's office and home, while news anchors speculated about the nature of their relationship. The scandal threatened to derail Condit's political career, and his every move was scrutinized. Facing mounting pressure, Condit agreed to a formal interview with the police. The interview took place in a private room at the Metropolitan Police Department. Away from the prying eyes of the media, Woodward prepared meticulously, aiming to uncover any inconsistencies or admissions that could shed light on Chandra's disappearance. Condit arrived with his lawyers, maintaining a composed demeanor. He expressed his concern for Chandra and reiterated his willingness to cooperate with the investigation. Woodward began the interview with standard questions about Condit's whereabouts and activities on the day Chandra disappeared. Condit provided an alibi, stating he had been in meetings all day. However, Woodward pressed further, bringing up the phone records and visits to Chandra's apartment. Condit's responses became increasingly vague and defensive. He admitted to knowing Chandra but insisted their relationship was purely professional. Despite his calm exterior, it was clear that the congressman was uncomfortable with the line of questioning. As the interview continued, Condit's lawyers intervened frequently, limiting his answers and steering the conversation away from potentially incriminating topics. Woodward remained persistent, but the interview yielded few concrete answers. Condit left the police station with his reputation further tarnished, and the public's suspicion deepened. Meanwhile, the search for Chandra in Rock Creek Park continued. The witness who claimed to have seen a woman matching Chandra's description near a secluded area of the park provided a critical lead. Woodward's team focused their efforts on this section using specialized equipment and forensic experts to comb through the dense underbrush. During one of the searches, a team member discovered a piece of torn fabric caught on a branch. The fabric matched the description of the clothing Chandra was wearing when she was last seen. This discovery reignited hope and led to a more concentrated search of the area. The tension within the investigation team was palpable. Detectives worked around the clock, driven by the need to find answers. Woodward's focus remained sharp, despite the growing complexity of the case. The connection to Condit had added a layer of scandal and intrigue, but it had also brought new leads and renewed determination. In the midst of the media storm, the Levy family continued their public appeals for information. They held press conferences and appeared on national television, sharing their anguish and pleading for any help in finding their daughter. The emotional toll was immense, but their resolve never wavered. The investigation also uncovered more about Chandra's last days. She had been planning to return to California for her graduation and had spoken to her family about her excitement for the future. Her sudden disappearance was completely out of character, adding to the sense of urgency and desperation. As Woodward and his team pieced together the timeline, they found several inconsistencies in Condit's alibi. Surveillance footage from nearby businesses contradicted his claims about his whereabouts on the day Chandra disappeared. These discrepancies further implicated Condit and raised more questions about his involvement. Despite the mounting evidence, there was still no concrete proof linking Condit directly to Chandra's disappearance. The investigation was at a critical juncture, with leads pointing in multiple directions, but no definitive answers. Woodward knew that time was running out, and the pressure to solve the case was immense. The mystery of Chandra Levy's disappearance had captivated the nation, and the involvement of a powerful congressman added a layer of intrigue that kept the public and media on edge. The investigation was far from over, and the search for truth continued with relentless determination. Media frenzy. The disappearance of Chandra Levy had already been making headlines, but the revelation of her possible relationship with Congressman Gary Condit catapulted the case into a full-blown media frenzy. Every major news outlet in the country was covering the story, dissecting every detail and speculating about the nature of their relationship. The public was captivated by the mix of political scandal and mystery, and the media's relentless pursuit of the story added layers of complexity to the investigation. The impact of the media on the investigation was immediate and intense. Detective Bob Woodward found himself and his team working under the watchful eyes of journalists and television cameras. The scrutiny was both a blessing and a curse. It kept Chandra's case in the public eye, but it also meant that every move the police made was subject to intense analysis and criticism. Woodward's team had to navigate the delicate balance of conducting a thorough investigation while managing the public relations aspect. Information leaks were a constant concern, as any detail, no matter how small, could spark a media storm. The police had to be meticulous in their communications, ensuring that they provided enough information to keep the public informed without compromising the integrity of the investigation. The Levy family, already devastated by Chandra's disappearance, now had to contend with the relentless media attention. Reporters camped outside their hotel, cameras followed their every move, and their pleas for privacy were largely ignored. The Levys, however, recognized the power of the media to keep their daughter's case in the spotlight. They decided to use the platform to their advantage, holding press conferences and appearing on national television to appeal for any information that could lead to Chandra. At a particularly emotional press conference, Susan and Robert Levy stood before a sea of microphones and flashing cameras. Susan, holding a photograph of Chandra, made a heartfelt plea. "If anyone has seen our daughter, if anyone knows anything about her whereabouts, please come forward. We just want to bring Chandra home." The media's focus on Congressman Condit intensified as well. His connection to Chandra Levy became the subject of countless news stories and opinion pieces. Every aspect of his personal and professional life was examined under a microscope. The congressman's attempts to distance himself from the scandal only fueled further speculation. His denials of a romantic relationship with Chandra were met with skepticism by both the media and the public. Condit's political career was hanging by a thread. The pressure was immense, and his every word and action were scrutinized. He held a press conference, flanked by his legal team, where he reiterated his concern for Chandra and denied any wrongdoing. "I am deeply concerned about Chandra Levy," he stated firmly. "I am fully cooperating with the police, and I hope for her safe return." His words did little to quell the growing tide of suspicion and doubt. The media frenzy also led to a flood of tips and leads, many of which were false or irrelevant. The police were inundated with calls from people claiming to have seen Chandra or having information about her disappearance. Each lead had to be meticulously followed up, adding to the workload and frustration of the investigation team. Woodward's team sifted through the tips, prioritizing those that seemed most credible, but the sheer volume of information was overwhelming. One particular lead came from a caller who claimed to have seen a woman matching Chandra's description near a bridge in Rock Creek Park on the day she disappeared. The caller described seeing the woman talking to a man who fit the description of Congressman. Woodward's team investigated the lead thoroughly, interviewing the caller and searching the area, but no concrete evidence was found to support the claim. The media coverage also brought out a darker side of public interest. Conspiracy theories began to circulate, ranging from plausible to outrageous. Some speculated that Chandra had been silenced because she knew too much about Condit's political dealings, while others suggested that she had been kidnapped by a foreign intelligence agency. These theories, while mostly unfounded, added to the confusion and noise surrounding the case. Amid the chaos, Woodward remained focused on the core investigation. He continued to probe into Chandra's last known activities, examining her phone records, emails, and personal notes for any clues. The discovery of her internet search history for Rock Creek Park remained a critical lead, and search efforts in the park were intensified. Woodward also scrutinized Condit's alibi and movements, searching for any inconsistencies that could provide a breakthrough. In a bid to manage the media and public expectations, the Metropolitan Police Department held regular briefings. Woodward, often accompanied by a public relations officer, provided updates on the investigation's progress while carefully avoiding any information that could compromise their efforts. The briefings were tense, with reporters pressing for details and occasionally challenging the police's handling of the case. As the media storm raged on, Woodward's team made a significant discovery. Chandra's friend and fellow intern, Jennifer Baker, mentioned a conversation she had with Chandra a few days before her disappearance. Chandra had confided in Jennifer about a special friend who was very influential and had promised to help her career. Jennifer suspected this friend was Congressman Condit. This conversation added weight to the theory that Chandra's disappearance was linked to her relationship with Condit. The Levys continued their public appeals, holding candlelight vigils and rallies to keep Chandra's memory alive and to maintain public interest in the case. The vigils were attended by hundreds of supporters, including other families of missing persons, who understood the pain and uncertainty the Levys were enduring. The gatherings provided a sense of solidarity and hope, even as the search dragged on with no definitive answers. The pressure on Detective Woodward and his team was immense. The media's relentless coverage, the emotional toll on the Levy family, and the political implications of Condit's involvement created a high-stakes environment. The investigation had to navigate through a minefield of public scrutiny, misinformation, and powerful interests. Despite these challenges, Woodward was determined to find the truth and bring justice for Chandra Levy. As the days turned into weeks, the investigation reached a critical juncture. The media's interest showed no signs of waning, and the public's appetite for answers only grew stronger. The case of Chandra Levy had become a symbol of both the dangers faced by young women and the dark underbelly of political power. The quest for truth was more urgent than ever, and the eyes of the nation were fixed on Detective Woodward and his team as they pressed forward in their search for answers. Dead ends. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance was now entering its third month, and the sense of urgency had never been greater. Despite the relentless efforts of Detective Bob Woodward and his team, the case seemed to be mired in a series of dead ends. Each promising lead seemed to dissolve into nothingness, and the weight of frustration was palpable. The Levy family, their hopes dwindling, clung to each update from the police. Their days were filled with public appeals, interviews, and media appearances, all in a desperate bid to keep Chandra's story alive and in the public eye. Despite their tireless efforts, the emotional toll was becoming unbearable. The strain was evident in their drawn faces and weary eyes. Woodward's team, though seasoned and dedicated, was feeling the pressure as well. The media scrutiny, coupled with the emotional pleas from the Levy family, created an atmosphere of intense stress. The detectives worked long hours, driven by a combination of professional duty and personal determination to find Chandra and bring her home. One of the most frustrating aspects of the investigation was the sheer volume of false leads and dead ends. The high-profile nature of the case had attracted a flood of tips from the public, but most of them led nowhere. Each tip had to be meticulously followed up, consuming valuable time and resources. One such lead came from a woman who claimed to have seen Chandra in a small town in Maryland. The woman was adamant that she had recognized Chandra from the news reports. Woodward dispatched a team to investigate, but after a thorough search and multiple interviews, it became clear that the sighting was a case of mistaken identity. Another promising lead involved a man who had been seen loitering near Chandra's apartment building around the time she disappeared. The man had a criminal record, including charges of assault and battery. However, after intensive questioning and a solid alibi, it was determined that he had no connection to the case. The search efforts in Rock Creek Park continued with grim determination. The park's vast expanse and dense foliage made the search a daunting task. Teams of officers, volunteers, and forensic experts scoured the area, but progress was painstakingly slow. The discovery of the torn fabric had provided a glimmer of hope, but it was quickly fading as the days passed with no further breakthroughs. Amidst the frustration, Woodward received a visit from an old friend and colleague, retired Detective Jack Harrison. Harrison, a legend in the department, had solved numerous high-profile cases during his career. He offered his insights and experience, hoping to provide a fresh perspective on the investigation. Over a late-night coffee in Woodward's cluttered office, the two detectives pored over the case files. Harrison's keen eye and analytical mind brought a renewed sense of purpose to the investigation. He suggested re-examining some of the smaller, seemingly insignificant details that might have been overlooked. Harrison's suggestion led Woodward to revisit Chandra's digital footprint. A deeper dive into her email and online activity revealed a series of encrypted messages that had initially been dismissed as irrelevant. And with the help of a cybersecurity expert, the team decrypted the messages and discovered a series of communications between Chandra and an anonymous individual. The messages indicated that Chandra had been conducting her own investigation into a series of suspicious activities related to her work at the Federal Bureau of Prisons. She had uncovered information about possible corruption and illicit activities within the Bureau, which she had been planning to expose. This revelation added a new layer of complexity to the case, suggesting that Chandra's disappearance might be linked to her work, rather than her personal life. The discovery reignited the investigation. Woodward's team began to delve into Chandra's work at the Bureau of Prisons, interviewing her colleagues and supervisors. They uncovered evidence of irregularities and possible corruption within the Bureau, including the involvement of high-ranking officials. This line of inquiry opened up a new avenue of investigation, with potential suspects who had a motive to silence Chandra. As the investigation into the Bureau's activities intensified, Woodward faced another setback. An informant who had come forward with information about the Bureau's corruption was found dead under suspicious circumstances. The informant had provided crucial details that pointed to a network of illicit activities, but his sudden death left many questions unanswered. The team's frustration grew as they encountered more obstacles. Each step forward seemed to be met with resistance, and the shadowy figures behind the Bureau's corruption appeared to be formidable adversaries. Woodward realized that they were dealing with a well-organized and dangerous network that would go to great lengths to protect their secrets. Despite the setbacks, Woodward and his team remained undeterred. The new line of investigation provided a renewed sense of purpose, and they were determined to uncover the truth. They expanded their efforts, bringing in additional resources and experts to assist with the case. The Levy family, though devastated by the lack of progress, found solace in the fact that the investigation was moving in a new direction. They continued to support the police and maintained their public appeals, hoping that someone, somewhere, might hold the key to finding their daughter. As the weeks turned into months, the investigation reached a critical juncture. The search for Chandra Levy had become a complex web of intrigue, corruption, and danger. The dead ends and false leads had tested the team's resolve, but they were more determined than ever to bring justice for Chandra and uncover the truth behind her disappearance. The quest for answers continued, driven by the unwavering determination of Detective Woodward and his team. The case had become a symbol of their commitment to justice, and they would not rest until they had solved the mystery of Chandra Levy's disappearance. Hidden secrets. With new revelations about Chandra Levy's possible investigation into corruption at the Federal Bureau of Prisons, the case took on a darker and more complex tone. The discovery of encrypted emails hinted at a conspiracy that reached deep into the halls of power, suggesting that Chandra's disappearance might be linked to her professional life rather than just her personal connections. Detective Bob Woodward and his team knew they had stumbled upon something significant. The implications of Chandra's findings could potentially expose a network of corruption, and this new angle needed thorough investigation. The team began by conducting in-depth interviews with Chandra's colleagues and supervisors at the Bureau of Prisons. They sought to understand the nature of her work and the extent of the information she had uncovered. As the detectives delved into Chandra's professional life, they discovered that she had been working on several high-profile projects that intersected with sensitive areas of prison management and operations. Her work involved analyzing contracts and funding allocations, areas ripe for corruption and misconduct. Chandra's meticulous nature and determination to uncover the truth had likely made her a target. One of the key pieces of evidence came from Chandra's supervisor, who reluctantly admitted that she had expressed concerns about certain anomalies in financial documents. These documents pointed to significant discrepancies in the allocation of funds, suggesting that money was being siphoned off for illicit purposes. The supervisor, visibly nervous, hinted that Chandra had discussed her findings with someone outside the bureau, possibly a journalist or another investigator. This new information led Woodward to follow the money trail. The team worked with financial analysts to trace the flow of funds through the bureau's accounts. They uncovered a series of shell companies and offshore accounts that were being used to launder money. The investigation revealed that high-ranking officials within the Bureau were involved in a complex web of financial misconduct. Amidst these discoveries, another significant piece of evidence came to light. One of Chandra's colleagues, a data analyst named Mark Stevens, came forward with crucial information. Stevens had been aware of Chandra's investigation and had assisted her in decrypting some of the emails. He provided the police with copies of the encrypted messages and additional data files that Chandra had been analyzing. Stevens' cooperation proved invaluable. The encrypted emails detailed conversations between Chandra and an anonymous source who had been feeding her information about the corruption within the Bureau. The source, who used the code name Phoenix, had warned Chandra about the dangers of her investigation and advised her to be cautious. The emails indicated that Chandra had been planning to meet with Phoenix to exchange more information, but the meeting had never taken place. Woodward's team worked tirelessly to identify Phoenix. They traced the IP addresses used in the emails and eventually uncovered the identity of the source, a former Bureau employee named Linda Roberts. Roberts had been terminated under suspicious circumstances and had since been living under the radar, fearing for her safety. Woodward and his team located Roberts and brought her in for questioning. He was initially reluctant to talk, but after being assured of protection, she revealed a trove of information. Roberts had discovered the corruption while working as a financial officer at the Bureau. When she attempted to expose the wrongdoing, she was threatened and subsequently fired. She had reached out to Chandra, hoping that her investigation could bring the truth to light. Roberts' testimony was damning. She provided detailed accounts of how the corruption was orchestrated, implicating several high-ranking officials. She also confirmed that Chandra had been in possession of key documents that could have exposed the entire operation. Roberts believed that Chandra's disappearance was directly related to her investigation and the threat she posed to those involved. With this new information, Woodward's team intensified their efforts. They obtained search warrants and raided the offices and homes of the implicated officials. The raids uncovered additional evidence, including financial records, encrypted communication devices, and substantial amounts of cash hidden in secret compartments. The investigation also revealed that some of the Bureau's officials had ties to organized crime. This connection explained the lengths they were willing to go to protect their operations and eliminate any threats. The team realized that Chandra had likely been abducted and silenced to prevent her from exposing the corruption. Amidst these breakthroughs, Woodward faced another challenge. The media, still closely following the case, caught wind of the new developments. News outlets began reporting on the corruption within the Bureau, adding another layer of pressure on the investigation. Woodward had to manage the flow of information carefully, ensuring that the integrity of the investigation was not compromised. The Levys, while devastated by the revelations about their daughter's possible fate, found some solace in knowing that the investigation was making progress. They continued their public appeals, but their focus shifted to supporting the police efforts to uncover the truth and bring those responsible to justice. As the investigation progressed, Woodward and his team uncovered one final piece of the puzzle. Forensic analysis of the encrypted communications revealed a planned meeting between Chandra and Phoenix at a secluded location in Rock Creek Park. This meeting had been set for the day Chandra disappeared. Armed with this knowledge, the search in Rock Creek Park was reignited with renewed determination. The team focused on the specific area where the meeting was supposed to take place. They used advanced forensic techniques and ground-penetrating radar to search for any trace of Chandra. After several days of intense searching, the team made a grim discovery. Buried in a shallow grave, they found human remains. Dental records and personal effects confirmed that the remains were those of Chandra Levy. The discovery brought a sense of closure to the case, but it also underscored the tragic loss of a young woman whose dedication to uncovering the truth had cost her life. The investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance had uncovered a web of corruption, deceit, and murder. The truth behind her disappearance had finally been revealed, bringing justice to her and her family. The case had highlighted the dangers faced by those who challenge powerful interests, but it also demonstrated the relentless pursuit of justice by Detective Woodward and his team. The breakthrough. The discovery of Chandra Levy's remains in Rock Creek Park marked a pivotal moment in the investigation. While the tragic confirmation of her death brought a profound sense of loss, it also galvanized Detective Bob Woodward and his team. The breakthrough provided a new momentum, propelling them forward in their quest for justice. The next steps involved not only identifying those responsible, but also dismantling the corruption that had led to Chandra's untimely demise. The remains found in Rock Creek Park were sent for a comprehensive forensic examination. The medical examiner confirmed the identity of Chandra Levy through dental records and identified signs of trauma that indicated foul play. The findings suggested that Chandra had been assaulted and likely died from blunt force trauma. These details painted a grim picture of her final moments and underscored the need to hold her assailants accountable. With the evidence pointing to high-ranking officials within the Federal Bureau of Prisons and their connections to organized crime, the investigation expanded to involve federal agencies. The FBI, recognizing the severity and complexity of the case, provided additional resources and expertise. The combined efforts of local law enforcement and federal agents aimed to unravel the network of corruption and bring the perpetrators to justice. Detective Woodward coordinated closely with Agent Sarah Collins, a seasoned FBI investigator known for her expertise in organized crime. Together, they formed a task force dedicated to the Levy case. The task force comprised experienced detectives, financial analysts, cybercrime experts, and forensic specialists. Their goal was to build an airtight case against those involved in the conspiracy. One of the first steps was to delve deeper into the financial irregularities uncovered during the investigation. The team scrutinized the shell companies and offshore accounts used to launder money. They uncovered a sophisticated operation that funneled illicit funds through multiple layers of transactions to obscure their origin. The trail led to several prominent figures within the Bureau of Prisons and their criminal associates. Key to the investigation was the testimony of Linda Roberts, the whistleblower who had initially provided crucial information about the corruption. Under federal protection, Roberts revealed more about the inner workings of the scheme. She described how officials had manipulated contracts and diverted funds to enrich themselves and their criminal partners. Her detailed accounts helped the task force map out the hierarchy of the conspiracy and identify key players. One name that emerged prominently was Michael Draper, a senior official at the Bureau of Prisons. Draper had a reputation for being untouchable, wielding significant influence within the Bureau and beyond. His involvement in the corruption scheme was substantiated by financial records and communications intercepted by the task force. Draper had been instrumental in orchestrating the illicit activities and had played a direct role in silencing those who threatened to expose the operation, including Chandra Levy. The task force faced the daunting challenge of gathering irrefutable evidence against Draper and his associates. They conducted extensive surveillance, monitored communications, and executed search warrants to gather incriminating documents and digital records. The investigation revealed that Draper had used his position to facilitate illegal activities, including embezzlement, money laundering, and even involvement in violent crimes. As the evidence mounted, the task force prepared to take action. They coordinated with federal prosecutors to build a comprehensive case that would withstand legal scrutiny. The goal was to ensure that the charges brought against Draper and his associates would lead to convictions and long prison sentences. The task force's efforts culminated in a series of meticulously planned raids and arrests. On a crisp autumn morning, law enforcement officers fanned out across multiple locations, targeting the homes and offices of those involved in the conspiracy. The operations were swift and precise, resulting in the apprehension of several high-ranking officials and their criminal counterparts. Michael Draper was arrested at his luxurious estate, a stark contrast to the corruption and violence he had orchestrated. The raid on his property uncovered a trove of evidence, including financial documents, encrypted communication devices, and a cache of illegal firearms. Draper, once confident in his untouchable status, was now facing the full weight of the law. The arrests sent shockwaves through the Bureau of Prisons and the broader political landscape. The media, which had closely followed the investigation, reported extensively on the raids and the individuals taken into custody. The public's reaction was a mix of relief that justice was being served and outrage at the extent of the corruption that had been uncovered. In the days following the arrests, the task force continued to build their case. They interviewed those who had been arrested, offering plea deals to lower-ranking individuals in exchange for their cooperation. These interviews provided additional insights into the conspiracy and further solidified the case against the primary suspects. One of the most significant breakthroughs came when a key figure within Draper's inner circle agreed to cooperate with the investigation. This individual, facing substantial charges and potential prison time, provided detailed information about the planning and execution of Chandra Levy's abduction and murder. Their testimony confirmed that Draper had ordered the hit on Chandra to prevent her from exposing the corruption. The trial of Michael Draper and his associates became a focal point for the nation. The courtroom was packed with reporters, spectators, and family members of the victims. The prosecution presented a compelling case, supported by the mountain of evidence gathered by the task force. Linda Roberts and other whistleblowers testified, recounting their experiences and the threats they faced for speaking out. Chandra's parents, Susan and Robert Levy, attended the trial every day, seeking justice for their daughter. Their presence served as a poignant reminder of the personal cost of the corruption and violence orchestrated by Draper and his associates. The trial's emotional impact was profound, highlighting the importance of accountability and the need to protect those who dare to uncover the truth. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict. Michael Draper and his co-conspirators were found guilty on multiple counts, including conspiracy to commit murder, embezzlement, and money laundering. The sentences handed down were severe, reflecting the gravity of their crimes. The conclusion of the trial brought a sense of closure to the Levy family and the investigators who had worked tirelessly to bring justice for Chandra. The case had exposed deep-seated corruption within the Bureau of Prisons and demonstrated the importance of tenacity and integrity in the pursuit of justice. For Detective Bob Woodward and Agent Sarah Collins, the successful resolution of the case was a testament to their dedication and teamwork. The investigation had been fraught with challenges, but their unwavering commitment had prevailed. As they reflected on the journey, they knew that the fight against corruption and crime was far from over. But the victory in the Chandra Levy case was a significant step forward. Confrontations. With the high-profile arrests of Michael Draper and his associates, the investigation into Chandra Levy's disappearance had reached a critical juncture. The courtroom drama that followed brought a sense of public closure, but behind the scenes, the task force faced a series of confrontations that would test their resolve and push the investigation to its limits. Detective Bob Woodward and FBI agent Sarah Collins were at the forefront of these confrontations. They knew that the trials were just the beginning, and they needed to secure additional evidence and testimonies to ensure that Draper and his co-conspirators received the maximum sentences. Their goal was not only to seek justice for Chandra, but also to dismantle the corrupt network that had enabled such heinous crimes. One of the most challenging confrontations involved negotiating with key witnesses who were initially reluctant to testify. These witnesses, many of whom were former colleagues and subordinates of Draper, feared retaliation. Woodward and Collins had to provide reassurances of protection and offer plea deals to incentivize their cooperation. These negotiations were tense and required a delicate balance of pressure and persuasion. One such witness was James Harlow, a mid-level bureaucrat who had been involved in the financial operations of the corruption scheme. Harlow had extensive knowledge of the money laundering processes and the key players involved. However, he was deeply entrenched in the conspiracy and feared for his safety. Woodward and Collins met with Harlow in a secure location, away from prying eyes. "Harlow, you have two choices," Woodward began, his tone firm but empathetic. "You can cooperate with us and help bring these criminals to justice, or you can go down with them. We can offer you protection, but you need to give us something substantial." Harlow hesitated, glancing nervously at Collins. "You don't understand what these people are capable of," he said, his voice trembling. "They won't hesitate to silence anyone who crosses them. We understand the risks, but we have the resources to protect you," Collins assured him. "Think about Chandra Levy and what happened to her. She was trying to do the right thing and it cost her her life. You have the chance to make things right." After a tense silence, Harlow finally agreed to cooperate. His testimony provided crucial insights into the inner workings of the corruption scheme, implicating several additional individuals who had so far escaped scrutiny. Harlow's information also revealed the extent of Draper's connections to organized crime, further solidifying the case against him. As the trial dates approached, the task force prepared for a series of intense legal battles. Draper's defense team, composed of high-powered attorneys, was prepared to challenge every piece of evidence and discredit the witnesses. The prosecution, led by Assistant U.S. Attorney Lisa Carter, worked closely with Woodward and Collins to build a rock-solid case. The courtroom confrontations were intense. Draper's attorneys launched aggressive cross-examinations, attempting to undermine the credibility of witnesses like Linda Roberts and James Harlow. They argued that the prosecution's case was built on circumstantial evidence, and that Draper was being targeted due to his political connections. Assistant U.S. Attorney Carter was relentless. She presented a meticulous case supported by the extensive evidence gathered by the task force. Financial records, encrypted communications, and testimony from whistleblowers painted a damning picture of Draper's involvement in the corruption scheme and his direct role in Chandra Levy's murder. One of the most dramatic moments in the courtroom came when Linda Roberts took the stand. Her testimony was crucial, and the defense knew it. Draper's lead attorney, Richard Hawthorne, a formidable presence in the courtroom, was determined to discredit her. "Ms. Roberts, you've admitted to participating in the very corruption you are now testifying against," Hawthorne began, his voice dripping with skepticism. "Why should the jury believe anything you say?" Roberts took a deep breath, her gaze steady. "I participated because I was coerced and threatened. When I tried to expose the corruption, I was fired and my life was threatened. I came forward because I couldn't live with myself knowing what was happening. Chandra Levy was murdered because she was brave enough to stand up to them. I owe it to her to tell the truth." Hawthorne attempted to rattle Roberts with a barrage of questions, but she remained composed, her testimony unwavering. The jury was visibly moved by her courage and determination. As the trial progressed, Draper's co-conspirators began to turn on each other. Facing overwhelming evidence and the prospect of long prison sentences, several individuals struck deals with the prosecution in exchange for leniency. Their testimonies further corroborated the charges against Draper and revealed additional details about the criminal network. The final confrontation came during Draper's own testimony. Against the advice of his attorneys, Draper took the stand, confident in his ability to manipulate the narrative. He portrayed himself as a victim of political persecution, claiming that the charges against him were fabricated. Under cross-examination, Assistant U.S. Attorney Carter systematically dismantled Draper's assertions. She presented irrefutable evidence, including recorded conversations and financial transactions directly linking Draper to the corruption and Chandra Levy's murder. Draper's composure began to crack as Carter exposed the lies and deceit that had characterized his defense. "You've painted yourself as a victim, Mr. Draper," Carter concluded, her voice resolute. "But the real victim here is Chandra Levy, a young woman whose life was brutally taken because she dared to uncover the truth. The evidence is clear. You are not a victim. You are a murderer." The courtroom fell silent as the weight of Carter's words sank in. Draper, visibly shaken, had no response. The jury, having heard weeks of compelling evidence and testimony, deliberated for several days before returning with a verdict of guilty on all counts. The sentencing of Draper and his associates was a moment of triumph for the task force and a step towards justice for Chandra Levy. Draper received life imprisonment without the possibility of parole, while his co-conspirators faced lengthy sentences for their roles in the corruption and cover-up. For the Levy family, the verdict brought a measure of closure. Susan and Robert Levy expressed their gratitude to the investigators and prosecutors who had worked tirelessly to uncover the truth. They continued their advocacy work, raising awareness about the dangers of corruption and the importance of protecting whistleblowers. Detective Bob Woodward and Agent Sarah Collins reflected on the journey that had led to this moment. The investigation had been fraught with challenges, but their perseverance and dedication had prevailed. The confrontations in the courtroom had been intense, but they had emerged victorious, bringing justice to Chandra and ensuring that those responsible were held accountable. As the dust settled, the task force disbanded, but the bonds formed during the investigation remained strong. Woodward and Collins knew that their work was far from over, but the victory in the Chandra Levy case served as a reminder of the power of truth and the importance of seeking justice, no matter the obstacles. The Truth Unveiled. The verdict in Michael Draper's trial brought a wave of relief and closure, but the journey to justice for Chandra Levy was far from over. The final chapter of this harrowing saga focused on the aftermath of the trial, the emotional impact on those involved, and the lasting legacy of Chandra's courage and determination. As Michael Draper and his associates were led away to begin their sentences, a palpable sense of victory hung in the air. However, for Detective Bob Woodward, FBI agent Sarah Collins, and the rest of the task force, the case had left an indelible mark. The investigation had been grueling, filled with emotional highs and lows, and the relentless pursuit of truth had taken its toll. In the weeks following the trial, the focus shifted to ensuring the protection of the whistleblowers and witnesses who had risked their lives to expose the corruption. Linda Roberts and James Harlow, among others, were relocated to secure locations under new identities as part of the Federal Witness Protection Program. Their bravery had been instrumental in securing the convictions, and their safety was now a top priority. For the Levy family, the conclusion of the trial marked a bittersweet moment. Susan and Robert Levy had fought tirelessly for justice for their daughter, and while the verdict provided some closure, the pain of their loss remained. They held a private memorial service in Rock Creek Park, near the spot where Chandra's remains had been found in. Surrounded by close friends and family, they honored Chandra's memory with stories and reflections on her life. At the memorial, Susan Levy spoke with a quiet strength that had come to define her. "Chandra was a light in our lives," she said, her voice steady. "She believed in justice and truth, and she stood up for what she believed in, even when it cost her everything. We will continue to fight in her name to ensure that her legacy lives on." The Levy family's advocacy work gained momentum. They established the Chandra Levy Foundation, dedicated to supporting families of missing persons, advocating for stronger protections for whistleblowers, and promoting transparency in government. The foundation became a beacon of hope and support for those facing similar tragedies, offering resources, counseling, and a platform to amplify their voices. Detective Bob Woodward and Agent Sarah Collins received commendations for their exceptional work on the case. The accolades were a testament to their dedication and perseverance, but both knew that their roles as public servants extended beyond individual cases. The Chandra Levy investigation had highlighted systemic issues within the Federal Bureau of Prisons and broader government operations. Woodward and Collins vowed to continue their fight against corruption, leveraging the lessons learned from this case. The media coverage of the trial and its aftermath brought widespread attention to the issues of corruption and the dangers faced by whistleblowers. Public opinion shifted, and there was a renewed call for accountability and transparency in government. Lawmakers responded by introducing new legislation aimed at protecting whistleblowers and strengthening oversight mechanisms within federal agencies. One such legislative effort was the Whistleblower Protection Enhancement Act, which aimed to provide robust safeguards for individuals who expose wrongdoing within government institutions. The act included provisions for anonymous reporting, increased funding for investigative bodies, and severe penalties for retaliation against whistleblowers. The bill garnered bipartisan support, a testament to the impact of Chandra Levy's case on the national conscience. As these reforms took shape, Woodward and Collins continued to work on other cases, their experiences from the Levy investigation informing their approach. They collaborated on several high-profile cases using their combined expertise to tackle corruption and ensure justice. The bond they had forged during the Chandra Levy investigation remained strong, built on mutual respect and a shared commitment to their mission. The impact of Chandra's story resonated far beyond the walls of the courtroom. It became a symbol of resilience and the power of truth, inspiring others to stand up against corruption and fight for justice. Her legacy was immortalized in the Chandra Levy Foundation's efforts, the legislative reforms, and the ongoing work of those who had been touched by her story. A year after the trial, the Levy family, along with Woodward, Collins, and other key figures from the investigation, gathered at Rock Creek Park for a public memorial. The event was attended by hundreds of supporters, including families of other missing persons, advocacy groups, and community members. The park, once a scene of tragedy, had become a place of remembrance and hope. At the memorial, a plaque was unveiled dedicated to Chandra Levy. It read, "In memory of Chandra Ann Levy, whose courage and pursuit of truth brought justice and change. Her light continues to shine, inspiring all who seek justice." Susan Levy, standing before the plaque, addressed the crowd. Chandra's life was cut short, but her impact will endure. She believed in the power of truth, and her legacy will continue to inspire others to stand up for what is right. We are grateful for the support and love we have received, and we will continue to honor her memory by fighting for justice and helping those in need. The memorial concluded with a candlelight vigil, a solemn and poignant tribute to Chandra's enduring legacy. As the sun set over Rock Creek Park, the soft glow of hundreds of candles illuminated the faces of those gathered, a testament to the light that Chandra had brought into the world. Detective Woodward and Agent Collins stood together, reflecting on the journey they had undertaken. The investigation had been a defining chapter in their careers, but it had also reaffirmed their commitment to their roles as protectors of justice. As they watched the candles flicker in the evening breeze, they knew that their work was far from over. But they carried with them the lessons and the legacy of Chandra Levy. The Chandra Levy case had revealed hidden secrets and brought long-buried truths to light. It had tested the resolve of those involved and demonstrated the power of courage and determination. In the end, the truth had prevailed, and justice had been served. Chandra's story would continue to inspire and guide those who sought to make the world a better place.